Hi, thank you for joining me in this episode of GradSWE UCLA presents Women in Science, We Have the Power to Change the World. My name is Yifan Gao, a PhD candidate from Civil and Environmental Engineering Department at UCLA. I'm also the International Student Event Officer at GradSWE UCLA. GradSWE stands for the Graduate Student Community of Society of Women Engineers. Our goal is to provide support to graduate students and help them shine in their future career. We are going to host a series of interviews to female scientists, and we hope we can encourage more women to join the community of STEM. Our guest today is Dr. Evvan Morton. She's the AAAS Science Technology Policy Fellow in U.S. Department of Energy. She's also the co-founder and vice president at BioGals. If you are interested in her experience, feel free to check her LinkedIn page. Also, if you're interested in BioGals, the link is down below. Hi, Dr. Morton. It's really nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I was wondering if you could briefly introduce yourself to the audience.
Yes. So my name is Evvan Morton. I'm currently a AAAS Science and Technology Policy Fellow. AAAS stands for the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And in my fellowship, I'm placed in the Department of Energy, Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management. I'm also the president and the vice president and co-founder of BioGals.
Well, that's pretty cool. So I realized that you were talking about like carbon fossil fuels, and your PhD study is like evaluating the political, technological, and ethical management of carbon dioxide emissions. So we all know like carbon dioxide, like carbon emission is a really huge topic for climate change, and this is like a really serious problem that we are facing for all human beings. So I was wondering why you got interested in this topic, like fossil fuels, carbon emission, and management.
Yes, so I got interested in climate change about halfway through my undergraduate career. So in undergrad, I studied materials engineering and slowly started realizing that that was a little bit too detailed for me. And I wanted to be able to work on something that I could see more of a direct impact of my work. And that was also during the time where I just really started hearing a lot about global warming on the news.
Oh, yeah.
Just hearing about it a lot, it sounded scary, and I wasn't really hearing much about what the solutions were, just that it was a bad problem. And so I started taking some classes specifically on solar energy. And that just really got me excited about the different types of renewable energy solutions that we could develop as scientists and engineers to help solve the climate change problem. So that's where I really started getting interested in that. But it wasn't until graduate school when I started learning more about the carbon dioxide emissions and working on carbon dioxide removal. That kind of was kind of a happenstance type of thing, because in graduate school, I had my first advisor moved to a different university, and I chose to stay at Arizona State. And then I found a second advisor, and it wasn't a good fit. So finally, on my third advisor, and those that are listening that may not be graduate students, you have an advisor and you do a certain type of research project.
Yeah.
So because I had to change advisors, that means I also had to change my research. So through all of that, my third advisor was a great fit. I really was interested in his work with carbon dioxide removal. So I didn't necessarily have an interest in that before because I didn't know about it. But the more I learned about it and how it related to helping solve the climate crisis, I was really excited to get to work on that.
So basically you study like how to control the carbon dioxide in like a high level, not just only technology, but also like policy and other stuff. Wow,
Yes.
yeah.
So
yeah, go ahead.
Carbon dioxide removal is basically the process of taking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. And so
Okay.
you can do that with several different types of technologies. The one that I focused on is called direct air capture, which is basically like a big fan that you put outside. It sucks in CO2 and grabs onto it through a chemical reaction with the filter inside of the technology, and then that CO2 can be stored underground for permanent storage, or also can be used in different products. But I did focus some on the technology, but more about how much CO2 is in the atmosphere and how much we need to scale up different carbon dioxide removal technologies in order to help with the climate crisis. And I also looked at the Clean Air Act to better understand how the United States is currently managing carbon dioxide and how that could be done better and also in a more ethical way.
Oh, so right now there will be like a lot of policy coming, like for the carbon dioxide management. I know it is like a really popular topic that people right now are studying, like different technologies to capture carbon. And because I'm studying enzyme, I know there's like a lot of studies like about using enzyme to capture a carbon dioxide. So it's basically like all in the carbon control, like the to control the climate change.
Yes, it's a really exciting field. A
Mhm.
lot is going
Yeah.
on,
So
not only with engineered solutions, but also what some people may call like more natural solutions of
yeah,
are things that you're talking about as well, removing it in a biological manner.
yeah. So basically, like the carbon dioxide emission, like capture, like your PhD study leads you to your current work, like because you're our first guest in industry and government department, and you talk about you're working at DOD, and then you're like you're also the vice president for biogas. So I believe like all my audience are eager to know like why you decided to choose this as your career path and what's the life to in like industry and also the government department.
Yes, so through graduate school, I knew I was pretty sure when I started graduate school that I didn't want to be a professor. And
Okay.
at first, that made me a little nervous because that is usually what a lot of people want to become. If you're going to get a PhD, that's
Yeah.
usually the goal. But I realized that that wasn't really my passion and that I wanted to I felt that having a PhD would be beneficial for me for any type of work that I wanted to do in the future. But
Yeah.
I was pretty sure I didn't want to be a professor. So it took me some time to kind of figure out what I did want to do. And through graduate school, I really started getting interested in science policy. So science policy being how we use science to help create better policies. It can also be how we influence policy to help better fund science.
Yeah.
So there's different ways to look at it, but I look at it more at science for policy and how, regardless of the type of science or engineering you study, how you are better able to organize data and understand trends, how that can be used to create better policy. And so I really got interested in that, and still particularly with the carbon dioxide removal and how I could help influence policy to better scale up these technologies for the future. So that's kind of how I then kind of tailored my dissertation and my PhD research to go and kind of into that field of science policy, since I knew that's what I was interested in. And I kind of worked with my advisor to allow me to do more interdisciplinary work, pairing engineering with policy. Um, and with biogas, that was something that came out of a project that I did in earlier in my PhD studies with my friend Dr. Shakira Hobbs that you mentioned.
Yeah.
So we became friends in graduate school, and we had the opportunity through uh, an IGERT fellowship program that we were both a part of to apply for funding to do some type of sustainability project. And Shakira asked me if I wanted to partner with her to work on anaerobic digestion in Belize, because she had worked on that in her master's program, and she had had a previous connection with Belize and really wanted to go back and do more work there. So
Yeah.
I was like, that sounds fun. I've
Yeah.
never worked on anaerobic digestion. I've never been to Belize. Yeah, that would be really fun. So we put our proposal together and we ended up receiving the funding. So we went to Belize and started implementing this project. And then we went back the next summer and the next summer. And through this project, we realized that we weren't only providing a helpful way to think about sustainability and waste management practices in Belize, and using anaerobic digestion to reduce food waste. But we also were having an impact on the community, especially some of the young girls that worked with us. And a lot of people were kind of surprised to see women of color leading a technical project.
Yeah.
So through all of that, we realized, well, maybe this could be bigger than just a research project. Maybe we should think about doing a nonprofit. And that's kind of how BioGals was formed. And
Yeah.
yeah, since then, we're continuing to partner with Belize, and we're actually going there this summer as well.
Oh yeah, I saw the advertise on the website. So yeah, I when I was like searching on like sustainable like renewable energy, I went to BioGov website, and that's why I got really interested, because I watched the YouTube video that is on your website about your trips to Belize. So I just really want to know what is BioGov and what is the BioGov for, and I really like the concept, like inspiring like women in color, like to join the community of STEM, and also inspire the community in Belize to like get to know more about the technology and know like renewable energy. So you just briefly mentioned the BioGal, but I believe our audience would like to know more about BioGal. So would you like to introduce more to our audience? Like,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. So BioGals, our mission is to empower women of color and engage communities to co-create dynamic solutions for a more sustainable world. So as I mentioned before, when we were starting this as a research project, we also were really we wanted to be very intentional about working with the community, not just bringing a technology to the community and telling them like, you should use this, but we actually started our relationship with the community by doing surveys and asking people what sustainability meant to them, explaining what anaerobic digestion is and why it could be beneficial, and then asking like, do you think this could be beneficial for your community? So community engagement was a really important thing that we wanted to incorporate in our research, because especially as engineers, that is not usually taught in our classes. We're usually taught like how to do the math and science and how to create good technologies, but we're not really taught about how do we make sure that the people using the technologies actually want the technology, or like it, or could see it being useful to them, or just in general how the technologies we create affect society. So we really wanted to have that as a part of our research. So that's where kind of the co-creation part comes in. That's really important to us. But the other major part of BioGals is the empowerment of women of color in STEM. Shakira and I were both Black women in STEM, and we've gone through a lot of different struggles because of that. And we know that other women and women of color in particular are continuing to struggle through the STEM fields, because there aren't many people that look like us, and it can become very isolating. And you may have experienced this, but many of us have, we've started our science or engineering degrees, and especially in undergrad. And then after the first year, half of your friends probably switched their major because it was too hard, or they felt so isolated, or they didn't have the support they needed. So we really wanted biogals to be a way to build more community amongst women of color, to help empower them and to show them that they are capable of being successful in STEM, and providing that sense of belonging, so that they would not would not want to quit so easily, and that they would have the confidence to continue.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because I'm from civil and environmental engineering, and civil engineering, like during my undergrad, civil engineering is like one department, and environmental engineering is another department. And especially in civil engineering, I know there's like a class of 50 people, only one female students were there. And so it's like a really isolated, and even in my class, there's only like 7 girls. So it's really also, I totally agree with the community engagement of the like technology and like especially renewable energy. So my experience with anaerobic digester was like 10 years ago. So my dad was from a village in China, and then I know they built up an anaerobic digester to make methane. But like the government was building the anaerobic digester to make renewable energy and provide it for the whole village. But the community, they are not engaged. They didn't know what is that. So they are like pretty hesitant. They were pretty hesitant to use the methane that they provided from the anaerobic digester. So I feel like it costs a lot of time and energy to educate them and to get them engaged and to actually accept, oh, those energy we can use. So I really like the car. That's why I got really, really interested in biogas. And I would like to like shout out in our channel, like anyone who is interested in the summer trip to Belize, just apply and check the biogas website. Yeah.
Yes, please do. We thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
always are looking for more volunteers as well, and our website
Review.
www.biogas.com. So
Yeah.
yes.
So I am gonna ask you several questions for our organization, the GradSWE UCLA. So like we are like Society of Women Engineers. So I was wondering, as a female scientist, what challenges have you met in the way that you make like big decisions in your life? You just talk about like, because you're like a Black American, you already met a lot of like difficulties. If you wanted to talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my experience is kind of unique in that I mean, thankfully I haven't had any very direct racist or sexist issues come to me directly during school or in my career. So I'm really grateful for that. But I think what has been the most difficult for me is this what we call imposter syndrome, or like not having the confidence to believe that you can actually succeed because of what society tells us, that there are so few women and women of color in STEM.
Yeah.
And I think that is what really held me back in a lot of ways, that I just was always second guessing myself, not having the confidence, not thinking that I was good enough. And what when I think back about that is I was telling myself all of that, even though nobody else was. So I was being my own critic and I was holding myself back. And so, yeah, I just hope that encourages people to don't get in your own head and hold yourself back, because there's enough happening in society. Like, you shouldn't be doing that to yourself. So that was probably the biggest thing for me that I continue to struggle with, is just believing in myself, seeing how far that I've come and how much potential I still have. And not letting those different stereotypes that, oh, women aren't good at math and science, or they're too emotional to be in this type of field, or things like that. Don't let those types of things stop me from doing what I love to do.
Yeah, I have been suffer from, like, you just talk like women is not good in math and science. I remember when I was in high school, like there was they always think women, like female students, will basically fail at the second year of high school, because that's when like math became pretty hard. So I was like really suffer from that. I didn't believe myself. I feel like, oh, I'm gonna fail in every test. I cannot understand any concept. I cannot study science. So yeah, I think it is really important to actually be confident about ourselves, like from the deep of our heart, not like, be affected by the voice outside. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Mm. So do you have any role models that you look up to when you're pursuing your career?
Um, this is also I never had like a particular role model in undergrad in with respect to science, but I would say like my mother has been a great role model for me, just in seeing how much she has accomplished in her own career. She has a doctorate in education, and so that was my first kind of view into like what it could be like to have a doctorate degree.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, she's been a great influence on me of just seeing like the leadership roles that she has taken on, and all of the things she has accomplished, and helping me to see that I could do that too. um, but as I went through school, I've realized that my main people that I look up to, first was my first advisor, Dr. Amy Landis. um, I only got to work with her for a year. She ended up moving to a different university, but just in that year, it was so powerful to see a woman in leadership that I had not really seen before. Most of my professors were men, and
Yeah,
I'm trying to think, I don't know if I ever even had a woman professor,
yeah,
but she was my direct research advisor, and it was just really awesome to see how she navigated herself being
yeah,
a woman
really,
in
yeah,
STEM and being in academia. And I learned so much with her about self-care and like time management and imposter syndrome, and learning how to believe in myself. And she really was helpful in telling me what I'm good at. Like, you have this talent, you should definitely use that to your advantage. And it was just really helpful for me. And now going forward, my friend Shakira, I look up to her with the accomplishments that she's had already as an early career professor. And my friend Dr. Leah Jones Crank, that we also studied together at Arizona State, and just seeing the things that she's accomplished. So it's been more of like my friends and
mm,
my immediate people
yeah,
that I've worked with that I've looked up to, and they continue to help me to keep going as well.
yeah. I think it's really important to have a supportive advisor doing PhD. So my advisor, Shelly Behandra, she's also a female professor, and she's also a cancer survivor. And
Oh,
she's like really hardworking and being supportive to all of us, like in our group. So I feel like, yeah, that gave me a lot of power to actually believe in myself. Oh, I can also probably be the female professor or female scientist like her. So I know it's like really important. Also the friends around us, like giving us the community of the supportive community. Yeah. So yeah, my last question is, do you have any advice that you would like to give women that are thinking about or currently pursuing STEM field?
yes. So I think my biggest piece of advice would be to not to give up. If you are interested in math and science, and using that field of discovery to create solutions for our world, if that's something that interests you, you should do STEM. You shouldn't allow anyone to tell you that you can't do it. And even if those subjects are not your best, because when I was in like middle school and high school, I didn't feel that my math and science were my best subjects. My best subjects really are in writing, and I've in now
Mm.
seeing where I am now with science policy, that has helped a lot. But I was so fascinated by math and science, and I wanted to keep working on those, even though they weren't my best subjects. It's what made me excited about going to school. And so I would encourage women to know that you should do what you're passionate about, what makes you excited, what makes you want to contribute to the world. Don't just, of course, what you're good at is helpful, and it's important to figure out how to use those skills to benefit you in whatever career you decide. But I think it's most important to do what makes you happy and what makes you excited. I would also say that as you go through your STEM career, as you start doing undergrad, you may realize that STEM is not for you. And that's not a bad thing. So I want to be clear, like I'm not telling people not to do STEM, but what I'm trying to say is if you find that it isn't exciting for you and you don't like it, that you thought you did, when you thought you did, like it's okay to switch to something else. But I think what's important in learning that is that you didn't switch to a different field because you couldn't do it. It's because you just didn't want to. So if you you have choices in how you want to build your career, but you shouldn't let any type of limiting factor of, oh, I can't do STEM because I'm not smart, because I'm a woman, because I'll be the only one. Like, don't let those limitations keep you from doing what you're interested in. And if down the road you decide, okay, this might not be for me, at least you tried and you know that you're capable of it. It's just not what interests you. So I just don't want women to limit themselves, in the very beginning when they didn't even try and didn't even get to see what a STEM career could be for them.
Yes, I totally understand you. It's not just like, STEM major are good majors. I have a lot of friends in like British literature, like English. They have like a really fascinating career and good life. So it's just choose whatever you are interested. Like if you like finally, eventually, like probably you'll find out, oh, STEM is not my thing. I'm gonna switch to like economy is also probably STEM. Like like different major, but it's also okay. It just don't think, oh, I'm a woman, I'm the only student in class, so I cannot do it and got limited by that, right? Thank you so much for all the amazing experience and also like amazing suggestions. I'm gonna advertise Yifan Gao in our channel again. And then if anybody's interested, just feel free to contact Dr. Morton and then to like join the amazing shaping, please.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
No problem. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me for today's episode of Women in Science. We have the power to change the world. Please hit the subscribe button and follow us to hear more stories from female scientists.